didn't get to see the Sufferers. Can I see him sprite, please? Oh, Mio, we're about to start the Sufferers route. That's why you didn't get to see him yet. Raspberry Sheep sprites are very good. I really like, this is another game that has delicious style variation across all of its sprites and backgrounds and such. I like the Darkleer's backgrounds were gorgeous. That reminded me, we should double check on the content warnings for all this stuff, because
the content warning for this route is major character death, slavery, assault of a slave, violence, one broken bone, minor, eye gore, narrated, and flashing light.
You have different warnings than I do. Why?
I don't know if they were updated. This is the one that's when you click the route to start.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at the content warnings in the menu. That says slavery, assault of an enslaved troll, one broken bone, minor, eye gore, minor.
Robin says major character death is actually not applicable.
Excellent.
Cool.
Mia's going ape shit. Mia is a cat in a box that's like clawing out of it. Like, give me the boy.
Oh, last minute rewrites. I see. Also, do you want me to do narration for this one? I know you spent the last while narrating the last one.
That's what I was talking about. I was like, I've been so in mean cream mode that going to Signless is going to be intriguing, because it's still kind of cankry. It's just a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't. I don't think I'm gonna make this one Southern. I think this one escapes.
You could make him Southern.
Maybe.
But you have to tone it down and make it serious.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can't do goofy Southern. I can only do like just a light.
My name is the Signless. Who the fuck are you? That kind of thing. Like, you keep the accent, but you have to like tone it way the fuck down. Deep Southern. But yeah, I can do the narration for this one.
I'm laughing at Robin said, giving a credit I'd really like to. I hit the dev team up to help me come up with Signless's title for the route. Like, we had the Dolores was Did You Cause This? And I knew I wanted to like people like and unlike us. We are all people like us. And Sue replied like, consider a comma. I'm also enjoying the Mean Cree Renaissance. I read 3,000 words of Mean Cree fic like 2 days ago now, and that was fun. And then I wrote an amount of the Rose route yesterday. I wrote like 1,000 words, and that was pretty good. So I might try to keep doing that. Okay, all right.
Let me know when you're ready. I'll do narration, but I've got it up on my screen.
I'm just like, yeah, all of them do have very slight. Interesting. I'm looking at the way all the graphics are put together. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm clicking start now.
Okay.
You've come back before you forge forward. What?
You want to do narration on this one too?
Oh wait. Yeah. No. I don't want to. I'm sorry. I would just.
No, you're good.
Automatically went into it.
You've come back before you forge forward. It's quiet. The feeling is different from the first time Aradia brought you here. Nothing in front of you but inky black space and the tentacled things that seem content to let you share it. But the shape of the ache remains the same. You don't feel that same thirst for friendship. You see, then, why this exercise might help. You remain the person you are, after all, and that person is inexplicably drawn to other people. You're doing it in a controlled way, where you aren't the driver of the narrative. As an intro back into the friend venture you will eventually need to continue on, it's good for you, you're sure. You're just finding it odd to not quite be so hungry anymore. In some ways, it's easier here. This is history. You aren't responsible for who lives or dies, and Aradia has, in fact, already told you that you can't be. It's going to be hard, but it's a story. The story of the Signless, Aradia has said. One about equality in life and fighting for it. the Dolorosa had added. You can do stories. The new noise at the back of your brain is more focused than the old noise. You're not sure what to think, looking back, except that you hope you were a nice someone to know for a night. Isn't that how you've been maintaining your friendships anyway? One intense night and then charging forward? Oh, we need an Aradia.
I can do it.
Yeah, sure.
Are you ready?
I'm sorry, I'm like trying to pull all of this up on my computer screen.
Oh, I can.
you're
Here,
good.
hang on. I can actually.
No, it's cool. It's just that my computer is working on updates, and it's just a whole thing. So continue. I'll tell you when I am ready.
I also started streaming it, so you can also just watch it if your computer's doing.
Aradia pipes up from beside you, totally unprompted. Maybe you've been brooding for too long. You could brood for a while longer. The Dolorosa left you with plenty of material. But without waiting for your answer, Aradia opens a shuddering window in time, and you, with a wary look back at her, stumble through. You've misjudged the time portal's height, which this time Aradia has generously placed very close to the ground. You hit the ground hard, like when you expect a descending staircase to have one more step than it does. But it's because of her consideration exclusively that you don't fall on your ass. And then you stand straight up. And fall on your ass. Looking behind you and up toward whatever accosted you, your sharp senses quickly identify it as a ceiling beam, low-hanging and sloped. As you're rubbing at the sore spot in the back of your nug bone and whispering a swear under your breath, you take in the rest of your surrounding. You're in an attic. The floor you've landed on is rough hardwood. Concrete forms parts of the walls, like you've seen on other hives before, but almost everything about the interior and ceiling is wooden. Old, crooked planks make up most of the ceiling, contrasted with tarp nailed underneath their gaps to keep out the sun, a more recent install. There's a distinct smell of recently swept dust in the air. Some of this wood has been burned before. Scorch marks stand next to fresher planks made of the same stuff, but weathered in weird places and clearly scavenged. On the floor in front of you, only half unrolled, is what looks like a normal human sleeping bag. A second. There's what you think might be a third, though it's a whole lot furrier, next to a box of what looks like strips of bandages coated on one side with oozing green slime. A soaper, you know this one. Your investigation continues slowly around. You approach 180 degrees.
Hey there, are you looking for something?
Sweet Jiminy Kringle, fuck your heart.
I didn't want to startle you. It's okay.
Delicate
I can see
cowboy Signless.
Yeah, cowboy Signless. Mia starts vibrating. I can see I failed in that mission now. Circumstances weren't rooting for us, but we can try for second best. How's your night going?
This is an impossibly broad question. You tell him the term night as a unit of measure is a little flimsy to you right now. He nods, like he doesn't quite know what you mean, but he knows what that means.
Did you come here on purpose?
This dude just watched you purify out of a gaping hole in space-time. That's definitely not a first, but it never shows off your most trustable angles. Now that the shock has worn off, mostly, and the stuttering pseudo-calm interruption of it has settled back into awareness, mostly, you take stock of him. The troll in front of you sits crisscross meal grub sauce on the wooden floor, his palms open on his lap. You wonder at first if he's just been sitting like that the whole time. Did you pop in on this guy's meditation session? Yikes. But on second glance, he simply paused in using the comically oversized spine of a plant that has definitely tried to stab you before for the mundane task of weaving thread through a tear in a satchel. So, just like human sewing, you guess. His most notable feature is a ridiculous pair of what would be leggings, if not for the fact that they keep going up, which is sure something because his second most notable feature is his eyes. At first, you think he's blind, so you're not about to say your second guess out loud, but he's looking back at you, or at least kind of around you, with yellow sclera, unlike Terezi's at all, and with, undeniably, Carcat's mutant candy red. Well, for being an idiot. Because, of course, it's got to be. Of course he is. The Dolorosa's son's mutant candy red. So yeah, you're a dumbass, and it makes a whole lot of sense that this is the next chapter in the story. You're beginning to sense a theme. Is she still around, you want to ask, before realizing that asking a stranger if their mom is still alive isn't the best way to make a first impression. Besides, what if you were just here last week? You know shit happens all the time on Alternia, but, one, you really hate that thought, and two, wow, you have been quiet for a very suspicious amount of time. As normally as you can manage, hands folded gracefully in your lap, you ask the Signless if, you're so sorry, he could repeat his question. He seems unbothered.
I just asked if you came here on purpose.
Ah, right. Well, you say, glancing around the room as though it will give you any clues as to how to proceed. Well,
Do you know where you are?
Oof. So, on the one hand, this is an outcast fighting for equality and the inherent worth of life. He is not going to hurt you if you explain your case in a way that outlines the truth, the whole truth, how your intrusion on his life is only meant as a friend, right? The Dolorosa didn't kill you, and you were much shadier back then. You'll apologize. You can minimize the "my friend sent me here to learn about you" angle. This guy isn't even wearing any knives as far as you can see. Besides, you kind of want to learn about the revolution. That is true. On the other hand, for all his incredible welcoming airs towards a person who's burst into his busted-up hidey hole of an attic, he's unwedged his feet from under himself and casually freed his hands. You know that you're looking at a troll ready to run. You tell him... Save? Which should we choose?
The past or no, please help?
No, please help.
Okay, are we gonna do that?
Yes, Daft has spoken.
Daft has spoken. No, you say, deciding maybe it's for the best that you keep the supernatural shenanigans out of it. No, you don't really know what's happening at all. You just popped through that time window there, or whatever it was. Did he see that? That was wild. And anyway, you're really thoroughly discombobulated. Not to worry him. You're doing fine. You're adapting great. Maybe he could tell you a little bit more about this place.
You're on Alternia. Am I right in assuming that isn't your home planet? I would tell you the system's name, but it's the same as the planets. We're at the center of an empire that spans multiple galaxies.
You're so grateful for a question that can answer honestly that you must look almost perplexingly relieved. Quickly, you affirm his assumption. No, you say, this must be far from home.
We're also in my attic, which is one of the safer places for you to have appeared, but it won't remain so forever. In the interest of full disclosure, you need to know who you're staying with. Everyone on this planet has a legal impetus to kill me. For different reasons. Because you're an alien, they have the same legal impetus to kill you. I'm not gonna kill you. I have no interest in that. The people I'm staying with, no one is here now, it's alright, but they will be before the sun rises. They won't kill you either. There are 4 of us here in total.
From the tone of his voice, you would swear he's about to apologize you for the fright you got invading his attic.
Do you have any idea what brought you here?
Feeling a little guilty about it, the best you can bring yourself to do is shake your head.
No, that's okay. My Clade and I have a little experience untangling the supernatural. Don't let me get false hopes up. I don't know anything about something like this. Interplanetary portal transit. But I do want to help. Do you remember anything before this?
You were in a spaceship, you say, because that is true. Something started to go mysteriously wrong, you say, because that is true. You figured you might impact on a planet's surface and be lucky if you survived. Nothing could have prepared you to simply be deposited by portal into a mutant's attic.
What makes you say that?
Okay, wait. Shit. There's nothing wrong with it. You were just referencing your, cullability buddies. He said that he's cullable. Doesn't every planet cull mutants? Just a guess.
It's okay. I just need to know what you mean. You'd be surprised how many of my friendships have started with ill intentions.
Just a guess. He seems really small. He's really small, and there are no other things that seem weird to you. Sorry, your wild mutant guess was totally incorrect. Wait, shit, you're not supposed to know what trolls look like. Oh, why the fuck did it just skip?
Because he interrupts you.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
Here's the situation. Truth be told, me standing behind closed doors with a stranger who's identified me as a mutant, reportedly before they've seen a single other member of my species, it isn't going to be the safest choice for you.
This is not going well.
Are you in trouble? I'm not going to just send you on your way back to someone who will punish you for a job poorly done.
What? But no, you're not a spy. You would have no reason to spy on this probably totally insignificant troll. You mean the cullability buddies.
Do you know how to do that kind of?
Here he loosely mimes a portal. It's not a very good pantomime. His hands are limp and embarrassed about it, and all you get is the vague impression of a circle. Teleportation, you helpfully provide.
Teleportation. Are you able to do that on your own? Was that all you?
Yes, you can teleport. That's a thing that's true. He looks deeply uneasy.
I think you have to go. It really has otherwise been good to meet you.
He doesn't even wait for you to zap out. By the time he's finished speaking, he's already walking you towards the hatch down from the attic, the way you quietly led an annoying guest to the door when you're trying to tactfully end a conversation. Okay, I guess that was a bad ending.
Nice.
Alright. Okay, so we are going to explain to him in intense detail. Oh yeah, we can look at the log if we miss stuff. There's also
yeah.
You can also like scroll back, but it's kind of funnier if he just gets steamroller.
I just wasn't sure if I'd accidentally clicked twice or something like that. Alright, the past. Alternia, just a little earlier, you find yourself saying. This guy seemed very quick to accept that an alien's transportalized into his attic. You've declared honesty the best policy before. You've been wrong some of those times, but you've also been right some of them. You go with your gut and accidentally look like an idiot in the process. He leans back, shifting his feet slightly, but not as if to stand, and takes in the sight of you.
This is Alternia. Tonight is the third night of the fourth dim season's equinox. When are you from?
Oh, you're not sure, actually. It's 20-something where you're from, but that number is a whole lot smaller than the one he just cited.
That's fair. Your planet suits probably wouldn't mean anything to me. Nice catch. How about this? Where are you from?
Earth. Definitely Earth, you say, with a confidence you do not have.
Can I ask how you got here?
You try to explain your alien situation the same way you would way back when, to Vicare or Sarava, back when you knew nothing. Crash landing, the spaceship hijacking, since you know you're speaking to a fellow criminal, the things the Alternian planet's surface did to your soft, mushy alien organs, both on impact and in at least one incident per week since then. As for everything beyond that, isn't there some conventional wisdom about not telling people the future? Particularly when their future doesn't seem to end the way he plans it to. You don't think he should know that the future Alternia you came from is so... the same? But you do tell him about your powers, the rundown, the gist. You tell him about Aradia, and that she's helping you navigate. You don't trust yourself to remember which parts of the truth you have, and haven't told him if you make it too hard on yourself. Aradia's cool, you promise. You finish the hard part, and brace to explain your time traveler's code of honor.
How has it been?
You tell him a vague story about miraculously surviving your first visit to Clown Church. You slap your colorful illustration of the clown armpit experience right onto the end of the story, since it tends to be a crowd pleaser, and allude to the fact that you've been down in the entrance to the caverns, but mumble that you didn't see all too much. In the interest of responsible time traveling, you're pretending these are contemporary stories. You think some of your slang might have been anachronistic, but he seems to be giving you a pass. You tell him about the extraordinary luck you've had, and also the terrible near misses you've had, and about living in the ruins of a building that's no longer used, because you figure he'll relate. There are a lot of adventures, actually, packed into the side of town you could see from your weird defunct little tower.
The nearest city anything like that is a good few days away. It's all gated factory subgrubs around here. They're space powers, too? How'd you find this place?
That's tricky. You evaluate here, not wanting to draw Aradia into the proverbial line of fire, and go with near honesty again. Your powers are more drawn to people and connections than to geographic locations, you explain. I'm a friend of your mother, sort of, you continue, because both parts of that statement aren't untrue. You tell him she mentioned a Signless and a rebellion, and the two of you start up right out of your conversation when there's a loud thwack in the air, and an unmistakable sharp burning smell following it. It reminds you of the time your own brains got cooked, and you shake yourself out of it, jarring your Fuckle and Caprum memories back to the Alpha timeline, and yourself back to the present. You've bonked your head again. The Signless, on the other hand, seems to have avoided your fate by pressing a hand at the ceiling beam above him. He's quicker than you to his feet, holding out a hand. At first, you move to take it, then you realize it's not really offered so much as held up to still you. His palm is facing down. His other hand pulls up his hood.
Hey, I'm sorry to cut you short. Contrary to most conventional Alternian wisdom, I'm gonna walk towards the problem instead of away from it. This is my hive, or else I invite you to stay here. It's not just my offer to make.
Now he's offering you a hand. You have the forethought enough to pull your hood up too, as the two of you stroll out into public.
Can I help you find somewhere to wait, and we'll continue the conversation? I'd like to. I understand if you prefer to get the fuck out of Dodge.
As you get closer to the direction he's confidently striding toward, you've just trusting his sense of direction and followed, you start to hear the sounds of a scuffle. As you get even closer, you start to think it's the kind of scuffle that only gets labeled a scuffle for comfort when one side's doing most of the fighting. It's clear what he's offering you the chance to get away from. This is a part of the story, and you're supposed to be here for it. Besides, you aren't one to abandon a new friend hopeful over a little danger. You'd be saying that even if he didn't look worryingly fragile. Comparatively, you've seen a few adult trolls by now, and you know a kid who towers over him.
I'll be alright.
You look back over at him and shake your head solemnly. You pick up the pace to keep stride.
Alright. Are you sure? It's not gonna be a fight. I'm gonna ask you to stand back and let me talk instead of jumping in to help. I know that is harder.
The smell of an electrical burn hangs in the air. A voice drifts around the corner, indistinguishable but angry. Yes, you say, you're sure.
Okay. In that case, I need you to know it's not gonna look like it's working. I know you can make a good judgment call about what you want to do, but please give me that chance. The goal is to prevent harm and to de-escalate. I'm not in charge here. I'm only asking you a favor, but it's an important one, and I know what the hell I'm doing.
Oh no, you are 100% positive he knows what he's doing. So grateful to be with someone who knows what he's doing. You're magnificent at standing back and watching eventful things happen. Cowardice pays off, you've learned. Sometimes. Decently often. Depends on the volume. Point is, you're happy just to be moral support. The Signless laughs softly, belatedly, like his mouth almost forgot about it. Tall, cerulean-blooded troll is throwing something into the ground. Someone, their nose breaks. The psionic crackle you heard earlier can't have come from them. Their eyes are hollow, the way follicles are hollow, the way... That's a psionic with void rot if you've ever seen one. You've seen at least one. But the troll assailing them looks burned, all up their arm. There's a crack in the building to their left that looks new, paired with a speckle of blue below it. That looks about the height of a chip of their horn. The space around the psionic's eyes lets off a stomach-wrenching, telltale rivulet of steam. The rest of the street is cleared, but no one has gone far. Passers-by have halted in their passing by, keeping at least 10 feet back. A few eyes peer from windows, one pair from an alley. Someone pauses to inspect their shoes. A bronze-blooded troll carrying several heavy boxes lollygags, as though they aren't remotely inconvenienced, and pausing with a heavy load in their arms was their idea. They all know how this story goes, and they're minimizing casualties. With a rush of fury, you realize that this is needless. This is stupid. You could dash in there right now and zap the gold blood to safety and be back in time to get the Signless too, you think. It hasn't always worked out that way. But before you can voice the idea, while you're still staring and processing, not in shock, but not desensitized enough yet, the Signless steps into that 10-foot radius, and then into 5. There's nothing aggressive about him, but it's like he doesn't understand. Like everyone else here knows that he isn't supposed to be here, and he doesn't. And then he's standing taller. He's slowing. The closer he gets, but it isn't until he's just out of arm's reach that he stops, lifts his head high without pointing his nose in the air. This is going to be one of those sermons you've heard about. You're almost sure of it. You expect something perfectly calculated and deliberate. You expect something soft and kind. You expect hellfire and brimstone. What you get is...
What is this bullshit? Don't intervene.
Don't intervene. This isn't something you've seen before. Unfathomably overpowered high blood faces down low blood. That you've grown accustomed to. The latter a person in peril, the former an unstoppable force, more like a fact of life than a person responsible for their actions. Okay, not quite as accustomed as the trolls around all of you. The ones hurrying away like there's no tomorrow, the ones who have found ways to bide their time, waiting for the sidewalk to clear without looking impatient. But you thought you got the gist. This, though? This. The air stands still. You have, like any reasonable person whose friends have healthy emotional ranges, witnessed anger from trolls across the hemospectrum, high and low. You remember another of your very dear friends rap battling the fuck out of a highblood who stole her work, and you think that must be one of the other closest things you've ever seen to a revolution balled up in a one moment, though with a lot more showmanship and a lot less certainty. The thing that stands out, you realize, is that it's public. Someone has decided that it matters here, not to be bottled up and delivered at Highblood's convenience as manifestos in pit parks or feelings jams behind closed doors, but to be here, thrust into the face of the person who's hurting their neighbor. You look at him, and you feel that it matters. The Signless is standing with his feet shoulder-width apart, planted in a way that is too firm to be ready to move, like roots might extend from his heels and into the ground. Like when he met you, his weight is angled back. The Goldblood is a step behind him now. You wonder for a second if the Signless was waiting for something like that to happen, if them being thrown created the physical distance he was planning all along to use, and then you remember neither of you knew what the fight looked like before you rounded the corner on it. You wonder what he would have done if there hadn't been any space between them when he got there. All of this moves through your mind in the span of a second, or half a second, or longer, and you just can't count time. He's moving much more quickly than you are, none so dumbfounded and adrenaline struck. Blue Blood didn't look very impressed by that, "What is this bullshit?" And so you think there must have been no pause in his speech at all.
I understand what you want, and there will still be time for that. There are multiple ways this ends. Tell me what makes you need this one.
And just by nature of something he's doing, the way he's standing, the way he speaks like he has a right to, the way nothing in his posture or tone or face has caught on to this being a moment he will die in, you can feel everything's flipped on its side. Apparently, the Cerulean doesn't like feeling it. This stutter in the script. Apparently, pulling the rug from under someone having a power trip was a bad idea. He takes a step toward the Signless, and you can't breathe. The Signless takes a very slight step back, less than the Blue Blood who is advancing. It's to keep between him and the Gold Blood, not to leave.
Do you want this one?
His voice never raises past a point. It is a demand, not a yell.
I'm not asking you something easy. I am asking you stare the choice you are making the fuck down.
Everyone shifts on their feet around the confrontation's epicenter. The troll carrying many 2 boxes readjusts their grip and glances around after doing so as though they've just committed a crime. A woman who can no longer pretend to keep scraping the same increasingly pristine patch of gutter flits to the other side of the street. Something in the scene in front of them twitches, and your gaze shoots straight back up.
That's a criminal.
You look up in time to hear the Blue Blood say. He says it like it's an obvious end of discussion, a sigh, a, "Really? I have a job. This is the hill I'm going to kill you on."
Fat load of good she'll do me now.
He continues.
But I don't think you or I wants to get a legis in here. Look, I'm coming through. Pardon.
And you're very worried that he simply is coming through whether your buddy moves his flesh sack out of the way or not. The Signless does not pardon him. He does not move, and the Blue Blood sneers, rearing a hand behind his back.
We have this minute. We actually have this minute. Listen to me. You're frustrated. The way you expected this night to go down has been disrupted, and according to just about every person you ever met, that's supposed to mean something about you. Notice your employer isn't watching. This troll behind me isn't leaving. I'm doing nothing to you. This is a plan someone else wrote for you that I'm interrupting. I want you to explain to me why you need this victory over someone who is in no position to fight back. The story I'm looking at goes like this. You came to blows, it's over. You have nothing to prove here, nothing to win, and frankly nothing worth carrying a flesh and blood trophy back to.
The Cerulean opens his mouth to say,
"Have you ever had a job, or..."
And the Signless says,
I understand.
which isn't a yes, and they don't like it, but...
I understand fucking completely here, because that is the problem and we haven't examined it.
Signless starts to say, "Please try to, with me," at the same time as the blue blood starts to laugh, and the Signless, for one, doesn't stop.
Someone has positioned your social survival over her freedom, and I'm tired of it. You should be tired of it. I know you are. I know you're tired of me proverbially dragging your head around to look at it. I know you're tired of looking away. You're buttering lies with the notion that you've proven you deserve the rights of your caste, and the rights of your caste are only to hurt. And what someone is hiding from you in that cyclical logic is that you are only allowed to be something if you are worth more than them. That isn't something this low blood did to you. That isn't something I did to you. You're bartering your ability to feel a single true thing for the ability to look away, to disconnect from the suffering of the trolls right in front of you. And who fucking put that there? She isn't what's hurting you. This troll got away. She died, if you want, if you can explain that you dealt with the callous disposal of your own cavern mate and go back to living your life as a consenting sentient barbed wire fence tomorrow. I urge you with every single thing in me not to. But this is one choice. It's one choice in one moment, and it can spark change or get buried on the rug, and you decide which thing, security or community, you want to walk away from. I will strive to keep that community door open as long as I can, but people will die for your tardiness. You should come anyway, some night. Just step the hell off right now. Nothing good or noble or inspiring is happening here. The fact that I noticed doesn't mean you can't too.
Apparently, somehow, that does it. He steps off. He leaves, wordless and self-righteous. You, still frozen in your spot, watch as the Signless, unruffled and steady, brings the energy from about a 10 to a 5. He turns to the gold blood at the same time taking a step away from them. They are still on the ground, less because they're stuck there, and more because they know better. He offers them a hand from a distance that would be comical on Earth, and, on Alternia, succeeds at being only about half as terrifying as a stranger in your personal space could usually be. They stumble to their feet without taking it. You flinch as another troll steps out of the alley she'd been rubbernecking from. From there, she moves all the way into their space, but she's only there to help them stand. You try to exchange a rather panicked glance with the Signless. The fuck are they going? Will it be any better than here? But he's busy exchanging a look with one of them, or the other. And so you're passed over. For the uneasy, limping pace the other two trolls had taken, they sure have disappeared completely down the alley when you look back. When you finish taking the long way back to where you came from, you are weary. This sort of dizziness that fills you up is the kind that comes when adrenaline is built up and not spent. Signless takes a breath that fills his entire chest and lets it out through lips pursed into a minuscule O. As he's something of an expert in handling moments like these, you consider copying him. His hand is braced against a support beam of the hive, but you know for a fact he isn't hurt. He doesn't at any point in this look at you. You both climb back into the attic.
That was a lot.
Should you two go check on them? The gold blood? Signless shakes his head.
No, they're okay. They're more out of trouble than they would be if we were to try to find them now. I too would like to see them all the way out of town, and frankly all the way to a brilliantly happy and healthy life and freedom after it. I'm very memorable, and going back now will only cause them more trouble. They've disappeared for the moment. Let's leave it that way.
You guess you're also pretty memorable.
I wouldn't have made it out like you coming along was okay if I genuinely thought it wasn't. Maybe you do have a point there, and one I should have considered. It was good to have a friend at my back.
Wow, you've only made like one choice. The friend bar must be super low here. You recall that he called that overladen with boxes troll that you passed on the way back friend too, though, and that dashes your good mood. You sort of wonder if it's alien for comrade.
Thank you for being there.
He's welcome, of course, and you mutter something to that effect. You think about the entire subgrub you've walked through, 2 big factories in the distance surrounded by small hives much like this one. You get the feeling that the person whose attic you're crashing in isn't doing much better than the gold blood you two left behind, with the eyes in any of those windows. Not one of them is free, are they?
Not yet. One night it won't just be lowbloods teaching each other how to survive anymore. That kind of burden should not stay on the oppressed. One night it's going to be waking into a town like this and walking out with its gates open and factories torn down. We've seen things close to it before. I'm not talking out of my ass. Chains broken on a much more individual scale. I don't think that's what it's going to be tonight.
Hey, that's okay, you say, and immediately clap your hand over your mouth for it. No, wow, no, it's not, but...
I know. It doesn't feel like enough. My family and I brought along enough provisions to share with them, while we're here anyway, and there is enough to share with you. We should probably debrief on what just happened. I'm still rattled too.
He doesn't look it.
Do you prefer coffee or tea? I'm not sure this one.
Which do we prefer?
I'm drinking tea right now.
Alright, we're going with tea.
Tea sound...
Tea!
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Tea
sounds nice, you say. Tea is generally what people use to calm down, right? Are these both caffeinated options? How often does he use caffeine to calm down?
We have herbal teas too.
He stands and then nods over his shoulder at the ladder, back down the way you came.
I can't remember which ones we have, actually, and I'm not sure I could explain our flora to you well anyway, but you can come take a smell and pick.
He's right. Despite your short time here, you probably wouldn't know the names of most of their alien herbs. Actually, now that you're thinking about it, you're sort of concerned about what alien herbs will do to your insides, but you don't think Aradia will allow you to die of poisoning. It turns out he's one mental step ahead of you because he leaves 2 of the little pouches of leaves aside and quietly explains that they're medicinal before telling you what's going on in each of the remaining mixes. You select one that is comprised almost entirely of something called stinger mint. He sets a kettle on the stove. Now he's mentioned it, you understand what he meant about being rattled. Even in here with closed doors, he's still sort of moving like he's hiding. When he sets the kettle down onto the stove, metal on metal, it doesn't make a sound. You turn your gaze casually away and give him a minute unwatched, but he catches you, naturally.
What are you thinking about?
So I guess running and hiding all the time really makes running and hiding all the time really means running and hiding all the time. Seems like an unfair way to start. So you try to broach the whole subject area gently. Good, you ask.
I wasn't the topic of conversation.
Ah. He's much less wound up about it than you expected, but it sounds a little sad. It sounds like something you might understand. Your existence has tended to always be a topic of conversation eventually. You sort of still have patience for being a novelty, though, and you're not, hypothetically, just by nature. Not back home. Not since birth. The Signless laughs softly, tying each tea bag shut to deposit into your mugs.
I haven't been since my hatching either. Not in the way that you're thinking. Troll Mama's good at that. She's phenomenal at that. For all of the thousands of things she is very abruptly in a position to need to unlearn, to even realize which things are to be unlearned, obviously we've been stumbling through this since my hatching. Obviously we've had a couple dozen heart-to-hearts about identity and self-definition and what that mean for both of us since then. But I wasn't a novelty. I was a stranger, but I wouldn't even call myself particularly strange. The world had an established pattern it understood, and it didn't plan for us. I think the first time we had this discussion, I found that to be a very strange mistake.
That's a complex thing to put on a child.
There isn't any avoiding the fact that you're in a world that hates you for what you are. You get there eventually. But there is comfort in knowing what you are. Comfort in knowing that you are, and that's good enough. I haven't quite finished defining what I am yet.
It is sort of comforting to know you're not the only one, even if his crisis of identity is much less metatextual.
Hell, I didn't even call myself a low-blood until I was 9, because I insisted I was appropriating something I'd never lived, until a very good friend flicked me in the auricular foil and asked if I had perhaps ever experienced, and dig down deep to answer this one, some kind of subjugation for my blood.
When he laughs, you laugh with him, and you both rather needed the break. You appreciate how he either is good enough friends with this troll that he still laughs to tears about their sort of mediocre joke a sweep later, or just likes hearing himself talk that much.
I think that helps, though. The concept that the world didn't prepare for us. 'Cause the thing is, one gets to talking and realizes that the world didn't prepare for anyone else either. That it didn't prepare for any single troll who wants to be free and to love more than they want to hurt. I've never gotten to know someone legitimately into their core and found they wanted to hurt. That the world to which we're referring to isn't the world by nature at all. It is a choice. It is the living and by choice evolving or stagnant thing that structures made by people. And that for every one of them it had prepared a place, an archetype to fail, instead of preparing for them. The thing is, you and I aren't the only people on this planet without some Messiah's given definition.
He sounds very well adjusted about it all, you say, gently. He reads through your gentleness very quickly. Bless this man, but boy howdy can he ever forget how to stay on topic.
I understand that sometimes the conversations I'm facilitating need to be about the thing that's fixable. In moments like those, it's a life to save. It's immediate. And so much of Alternia, it's immediate.
So, you can't do it as him. You hear the words he thinks he's dancing around, and you don't like them. So his mutation is just, what the fuck, a distraction? So he doesn't get to be inconvenient. That isn't right.
No. Horror Terror's emissary, no. This movement is for me as much as it's for anyone. It's for every grub like me who's never made it past the cavern's gaper. It always has been. If I could always work for it with my hue and vibrant display, I would. I would raise a fucking banner with it. You don't have to believe me, but I'm twice over an outlier. I'm a troll whose blood doesn't follow the bounds as we knew before I was hatched, and I'm a prophet who sees what could have been instead of what's coming next. And I'm telling you, in the universe we could have had, I walked around with my eyes uncovered and without exaggeration, was probably the most obnoxious neon scarlet belt anyone has ever seen. With the 3 of my fingers, any second of any night, I start arguments dressed like that on purpose. I was an unstoppable, preposterous little shit.
His face is shifted, caught up enough in the thread he's distracted himself with that you're not sure he remembers the question, but he looks happier. You roll with it.
I want that. Not the starting argument shit. That was bad, actually. I was, not always, but often, pretty bad. I mean that if the night comes when I can conduct myself, even in danger, as a mutant, and it will do nothing but make me a good example, if it isn't for my ego, if it won't detract, I would love to. I will leap at it. If anyone in my shoes made the other choice, I knew I would applaud them.
This doesn't sit right on you. That for all this, your friend has moments of keeping himself publicly palatable.
I know. It isn't me. It was me, to a point, but it's a gift that my think pan has learned better even if it did so before the world caught up.
And the world does have a lot of catching up to do. You look around yourself, at the hive you're in. It's decorated. You can tell the troll who lives here makes it their own, even though they don't own it. There's a little line of colorful rocks in front of the curtain in the window. Ah, there's a shadow behind it. You're about to say something, nudging the Signless's shoulder. He jumps to show him, and there's a rap at the door. But no, your gracious host's workday is not over, and they wouldn't be dropping by home. He gestures for you to move up toward the attic, wordless. You have a better idea and zap him to the first place you can think of that's away from here. No one else is here this time, of course. Goodness, though, you'd appreciate her help solving this problem. Maybe you should just go purify wherever the Dolorosa.
No.
Then you'll just stay here. Ah, you're not the ones in trouble. You're very in trouble, but you're not the person who lives there. You broke the law by existing, not by harboring fugitives. Ah. What a grand mess you've made. You don't get it. You didn't do anything.
No, we didn't. That's not always how it works. If anything, I shouldn't have pulled us downstairs and gotten distracted, but we aren't responsible for... We aren't accountable for the fact that the planet already sucked before we got here.
Before we got there. He looks both startled and befuddled by your eureka moment. No, listen. You can change this. You can fix this. Time travel. Remember time travel? You told him about time travel. Your powers, you explain, aren't always as flashy as the portal he saw you arrive in. You zap around the area a couple times so he can see it from the outside. You punctuate the display by zooming very many miles away, picking up a seashell from a far-off beach, and returning with it still caked in wet sand to offer him. He clearly wants to feign a little interest, but his eyes simply will not stop blinking. It doesn't bother you that stress is the predominant emotional response you're getting here. That is your predominant emotion, too. You start talking. You can't go where your past self will see you. That's a paradox, but you can shift some shenanigans around. You can not have showed up at all. You can simply pick a different night to meet him. Boom, new timeline, same timeline, new story. You're really not sure how it works. You can fix shit.
No, it's alright. I would have been out of the hive and several blocks in the opposite direction by the time the fight happened, if you hadn't shown up when you did. I'm grateful you gave me a reason to be in the right place at the right time. So, we have to fix this linearly?
No, okay, just give you a minute to think.
I'm gonna go back and talk to them.
You're not sure how often your friend talks his way out of danger, but this seems like a lot of times in checks watch, like 40 minutes. You really don't think this can be his solution to everything?
It's not. Whatever else you have, I am listening. I just won't pick a solution that puts someone else at risk.
Someone is at risk! You remind him very gently that someone is at risk.
I won't pick solutions that trade one life for another.
And if you go back to beg Aradia to drop you off on a different night, he won't have saved the gold blood. This sucks. This sucks. Is he sure, you ask delicately, that this isn't a case of simply trading his life for another one? A life is a life, you add sagely.
A lot of people have taken consequences that aren't theirs, that would be mine, for me.
This is bad. Everything about this sounds bad.
That wasn't intended as doubt. I'm very good at this.
You quietly hope he doesn't think talking is actually how he gets out of everything. You don't mean to intrude on business that isn't yours. It probably shouldn't come from you. He knows. You realize with another little flash of anger that he's defending the teal blood too, and you aren't really sure that's fair.
I understand the position I'm putting you in. I don't lack faith in myself to work this out anyway.
Neither of those things really feel like they're changing the position he's putting you in. You can just go back to see, to watch, to find out how bad it actually is. They saw a shadow or two through a window. That's all you know. Tricks of the light happen all the time. And so you, not him, just you, can go back and watch from outside, quiet and unobtrusive, and you can see what this troll does. Maybe there's no danger at all. Maybe it's over. You wait for an answer. The Signless nods. And so, first order of business, you clear out the attic. You zap back to the moment before you two had left, gather the items strewn about the attic into a messy pile, and zap back with your arms around them. Leaving the mess for the Signless to sort through, you continue. With your hood pulled up again to cover your freaky, hornless appearance, you stake yourself a lookout spot between two of the neighboring hives. You've zapped backwards in time about a minute. That works out almost perfectly, because it only takes 5 seconds before your teal blood comes by to knock at the door, and you, through the window, see the flash of light of yourself and the Signless zapping away. It's only a second after that when they open the door. And sure enough, once they do, they spend only a minute inside before moving on. They look a little embarrassed about it, like they're trying to shuffle along as quickly as they can before anyone else can see that they've taken time out of their day for a false alarm. You deliver the good news, and the Signless lets out a sigh of relief, like he hadn't quite been willing to exhale while you were gone.
Okay. So now we need to go.
He's finished packing, apparently, right before you got here, because he slings 2 of the bags over his shoulders.
Do you think you can find the Dolorosa and Disciple unobtrusively if I give you directions? I trust that more than me walking the old-fashioned way.
You've been doing this for a while now. For his sake, you're confident you can.
Okay.
Oof. Time and space powers, you remind him. You can go in a minute without being late. Is he alright? It's hard not to be the person to be the hero, you remind him, but everything is okay. No harm is going to be done.
Thank you, I know.
Then what's wrong?
Nothing is, quite technically. I am quietly, personally upset that we're going to be leaving 2 nights before we planned to.
That's right. This sort of still sucks. He's not going to get to say goodbye to his friend here.
It's not the first time I've done without goodbyes.
Gosh, you guess it wouldn't be. They probably can't exactly be pen pals.
It's nothing new, and I promise you it's nothing I need to process out if I give myself a little space to be upset over it anyway. You've done great. I would have gotten someone in trouble, and you found, instead, very much the best possible solution that Alternia offers at this time.
Okay, yeah, but it's allowed to suck. He talks magnificently about community, but you're not actually sure how long he ever stays in a community that's larger than 4, or like 5 or 6, you guess. He talked about the concept of taking people with him. It dawns on you that this has got to be a lot of how he lives, inspiring people, surrounding himself with people who, very much like you, needed him. But those are transient relationships, always moving on. You're going to be moving on. Isn't that how you've been maintaining your friendships, always? One intense night, and then charging forward.
I know. We both know that general lifestyle, apparently. Not every single person you love is in a position to just pick up and follow you, right? It'd be absurd.
Okay, but be kind of nice. He looks at you for a moment.
Hey, I'm sorry, I called you a friend earlier. I know that's a very fucking loaded phrase, and everyone has different comfort levels with that. I, for one, am trying to normalize the notion of caring about each other and being involved in one another's lives, but I also know the challenge of saying that over and over, if you're always gonna go. Is it gonna be easier for you, moving forward, if I cut that phrasing out?
Well, fuck. Does want to cut it out?
I've been comfortable with this for a long time, actually, but after this conversation, I sort of might.
Oh my god.
Non-committal one-night acquaintance zoned. Damn. So, we were gonna pick coffee because that is significantly different.
Yeah.
Okay. Coffee. Are you sure? It's just instant. It's very cheap instant. I'm none too picky, but I feel I ought to warn you.
With some of the food you've learned to survive on around here, a good normal cup of cheap instant coffee sounds positively luxurious to you. He laughs, warm, and though maybe this is just you and your weirdness, rewarding to be on the receiving end of. He tells you to take a breath, you do, and he descends to the kitchen. He's back not too long later, first his hand to offer you a mug, and then the rest of him.
So, the debrief.
The debrief, you echo, formally.
First, I want you to know you are not unique in this. Usually after anything horribly emotionally terrifying goes down, we, like Clayton and I, we try to sit down and process it out.
Oh, about that. Where is his Clade, anyway?
We're spread out during the night. The troll who raised me, that's the Dolorosa whom you met, is off doing the same kind of thing I like to, the first night we stay anywhere. Meeting people, learning what the community cares about and what they need. I was gonna join her at that in a minute, but I'm glad you caught me before I did. One of the unaccounted for pieces of my heart is helping our host neighbor. The other is waiting for us far outside of here. I wouldn't ask him to come to a place like this, and he agreed. It's all quieter outreach this time.
You nod as if you know what that means.
I know it isn't what you're expecting. You said you'd heard about the sermons. You should come sometime. We just don't quite have the breathing room for that kind of work right here now. As for right now, how are you feeling?
Wait, just all of it.
Well, not necessarily at once.
You think you're okay, mostly. You're embarrassed to find you're mostly okay. You're confused and angry, and it shouldn't feel like that moment ended just because you're safe.
I know that we didn't single-handedly fix an entire life in one night. We can't know exactly where they're going next. I never like leaving without having done enough. I've got my reasons for choosing to trust in this.
You think about the woman who did help them away, sheepishly. You admit that someone who's been living this for her entire life is probably better equipped to help someone else survive it. Maybe even get out of it than you ever will be. Than you'll become in the next 24 hours, anyway. But all those trolls who were just biding their time, you say?
The other lowbloods along the street?
You nod. You were so angry at them for doing nothing. Sure, that's exactly what you did, but you had a plan. You've intervened before. You wouldn't have just... You were so angry that they were that paralyzed, that they were complacent, that this was survival. Would that psionic just have been hauled back or killed if the Signless wasn't there? How has it been like this for so long before he hatched? How has anyone let it?
You're right that I couldn't be the first person to say this is not okay. I'm not. I'm 1,000 times moreover not the first person to think it. It shouldn't take a flashy prophet amplifying the pain a billion people have tried to call out before to get them heard. Do you remember the sludge-stodian back there?
The woman cleaning the gutter. You saw her, you think. You remember being distracted as she gave up on one side of the street for the other. Looked petrified about the concept of moving.
You're right. She moved from my left to my right. Can you picture everyone's field of vision at that moment, looking back on that? It's alright if you can't. That one was a fucking doozy to learn.
Wow, okay, right. So, the blue blood had been successfully averted to mostly staring at the Signless, and occasionally to you, reasonably so, considering your field of vision was definitely some serious, none too sneaky staring. The Signless, his eyes were turned away from you the whole time. You wouldn't know. The Goldbloods. Oh. You deliver your answer, and he nods, repeating it back to you.
She was moving where they could see her.
You see it now. You don't see everything in the street now. You're sure you don't see everything he was seeing, but she was staying close. Maybe she was ready to help them walk away, if no one had helped them walk away. Maybe she was there to make sure they weren't alone as they were dragged back. Or as they died. Whatever it was making sure they knew, I'm here.
I don't know her motivations either. There were a lot of people who might have been ready to run or might have been ready to help. I've learned the art of informed guesswork, but I'm a people person and an optimist, not an empath.
There were people who left, too, who were just trying to survive. But come to think of it, given your experiences on Alternia, you seriously shouldn't be surprised about the ones who stayed. The valuable lesson of the night. Perhaps your friends aren't exceptions.
There are moments when you look around you and find a cold world unwilling to care. There are a lot of people who bleed out on sidewalks or lay incapacitated until the roast of the sun with crowds stepping around them. I understand that as well as I can expect to. I know what it is to look out at a world that hates you. I know as well as I can that it would be harder, it would be worse without the people I love. Being deserving of that kind of care isn't exclusive to those of us privileged enough to have already found our clades. I think, everywhere I go, the world proves it already knows that. That caring isn't exclusive to us either. That there have been so many people out there trying, that there have been eons before I was hatched, but even too, that as yet unwilling doesn't mean incapable. I am fortunate to have a clade waiting for me to come back, but kind strangers have helped me get home on nights when I wouldn't have otherwise made it, too.
Is that why he preaches?
I'd like to say so. I hope I will be out there shouting these truths from every street corner and soap crate I can get my hands on, no matter what else my conditions, no matter how possible it looked. In reality, it must help that I have proof. I've called myself a prophet just now. I kinda fucking hate it, but that's the only word we have that approximate what I think is happening. I don't see forward, but I do sometimes see back. Parallel, I don't know. I am occasionally allowed to mentally trip into the Alternia we were supposed to have. And I know that this isn't us. This isn't us by nature. The presumption of violence is the method by which society is naturally ordered before it was introduced to us via construct, which fucking shit hive. I'm reclaiming that. Sanity is another normative spectrum that I'm not particularly a fan of. I don't say that. There was a span of time where I was obsessed. I decided if we could just figure out what changed between the universe we could have had and here, if we could work out what had made us hurt this badly, we could undo it, right? We could solve the universe, reverse engineer peace. And then my clay dragged me down to reality. Reality proved we didn't need to. The people around me had already proven we don't need to wait on answers from the multiverse to heal. I have yet to meet another troll who isn't drawn to kindness. And I've yet to meet one who doesn't need it. That's all we've needed, and you should see this movement at its strongest. You should see us outside of what's essentially infiltrated prison walls. We've freed people. We will here, if we ever can. We've seen fighting rings shut down, and once a would-be death sentence redirected. There's an auction hive in Offcleave whose owner won't rent it for the auction in the trolls anymore. There's an entire subgroup out there, I will name names, who collectively decided to chase the church out and did it. Things are changing.
And to hear him say it, your head inflated with narrative relevancy, your heart pounding for this one good thing, you want that. You want that desperately.
There's a place for you in this too, if you want it.
The fact that you already know how this timeline ends come crashing down around you again. He doesn't know. He hasn't mentioned your time-rending powers, but you're intimately aware of how you could use them. How you don't know exactly what you can do, but you do know it's pulled something about this universe apart. How you are a tool against the space-time he's contained in. Maybe you could even go back to whatever he's seeing before the cancer was planted. Solve his visions with him and his family, and figure out what changed between the Alternia he sees and the one you're on. Maybe you find the problem way back then. You think about how it's probably not one problem, it's probably the building up of hundreds of smaller decisions over thousands of years. But if there is an Alternia they were supposed to have, then this one should be able to work the same way if you guide it along. Shouldn't it? You would just need a roadmap, a plan, a set of points in time to twist, and then maybe, just maybe, you could undo the whole thing. Or, moving forward, you could watch this revolution happen 1,000 times. You could jump through it at a night a minute. You could figure out where it goes wrong, because you know that the Alternia you just came from in the future isn't his. You know this goes wrong. And then you could go back and let him know. You could let them all know. You could give a few weeks of your time to look over the next 10 sweeps, and then come back and confer with the Signless about what to do instead. You have infinite do-overs. You can just load an old save any time. Between you and him and the rest of his clade, you could hit Alternia at its malleable space-time core. You could take it apart and put it back together again. You wonder if he knows it too. If he's waiting for you to offer, if he was genuinely never going to ask at all, even if you just stayed here and did normal revolution work without lifting a supernatural finger. You wonder, at the back of your mind where your broken memory lives, you feel something else. There's something else here. Something bigger than Aradia's rules, but sitting next to him now makes you wonder if that's true. If that's something your old world, or this new one, or maybe that nagging piece of your brain that wants things to make sense has programmed into you. If you want order, and so you want to believe the battle's unwinnable, you wonder how many battles you faced down before that looked unwinnable. You wonder with your Alternian friends, with your new earthly friends, and you wonder what, once upon a time, you left back home. You wonder how many unwinnable battles you left sitting when that was ultimately untrue. You wonder if, at the time even quietly, you knew. Then think about your friends. Your new Alternian ones, Daraya and Tavros and Karako, and all the ways they're able to grow and change and become magnificent, vibrant people. How they're worthwhile kids. How the Signless and Dolorosa are right, and a person doesn't even need to be measurably worthwhile to deserve life. But hot damn if they aren't anyway. Deserve to live, whatever. You think about Carcat and what he's still hiding from. Maybe you could make a better world for him, but maybe you set off a ripple wrong. Step on the wrong butterfly, so to speak. Maybe you stay here and you make all the wrong changes. None of them are ever hatched at all. Is that selfish?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh. For what is not the first time in your friend-making escapades, and sure not to be the last, you aren't sure exactly when you started speaking out loud.
It wasn't long. If it was about my friends another time, I think I know what choice I would make, actually, but I'll never be faced with that. That world's not mine to touch anymore. This is yours. You've left a lot of friends in the future, right?
You nod.
I'm not gonna keep you here. I don't know if there's a strictly rat decision, but I do know your friends are the most important people in the world to you.
He offers a hand. It's quickly becoming apparent that when he's hanging out with you and not being something for you, he's not the most informed on how a body casually moves through space anyway. Then again, come to think of it, you're not sure any Alternian adult has a particularly normal causal relationship with friend touches. You take it.
And if it happens that I can't prioritize like that, then who is or isn't more selfish between the two of us isn't my concern. You care very hard. Whether you use that in my time or yours, on my planet or someday, eventually yours, I wish I could promise to help you get back. You're doing something right. Keep at it.
That's a tall promise to keep. You're not sure what you're doing right at all. You're not sure what he's seeing in you, and you're not sure if you've painted enough of a picture for him to really know. You tell him that you will.
Faith in Trollmanity restored.
Oh.
That was cute.
That was cute.
Alright, that was the first two routes.
Yeah.
Let's look at the credits. That's always a good thing to do. And this is Distantquest version 69. This game is a work of love. To find out more about each person, click their names to be linked to their internet profiles. Thank you. So our mods and organizers are Leonardo Regalado, aka Pie Shark, who is the director. Also Glass Goblin and Deca Noir. Let's see, we had Leo wrote the prologue. C, or Only Dolorosa, wrote the Dolorosa route. Robin, or Rhythmic Idealist, who is here with us in chat, wrote the Signless. And then I have played the Psionic and the Disciples route, and I I did play the Dual Scar and Dark Leader route, but they got eaten. Let's see. Leo did the Aradia sprites that we saw. Goblin did the Dolorosa sprites, and Raspberry Sheep did the Signless sprites. Leo did the backgrounds for the prologue. Jas, or Hipster Soul Gushers, and Birdie Sleeps did backgrounds for Dolorosa and the Signless. And then Jas, Hipster Soul Gushers, Leo, and Wiz did FX and extras. And Leo did our ending illustrations that we saw. Oh, and Quinn did one for the Signless as well.
Very cool.
The song for the Dolorosa, Darling You're Free, was by Articulately Composed. The Signless, Dreams of a Better Future, had Rainy on composing and mastering, and TV on live guitar. And then Leo programmed these routes, and Invalid Cards assisted. Yeah. That's credits. Thanks.
Very cool.
Thanks to the Distantquest team for making a good game. This is... not kidding, it inspired me to make a whole-ass video game.